Well, hey everybody, and welcome to Victory Life Church. My name is Joshua, and I am not doing another transition, I promise. Pastor Craig already did that. Today, I am actually bringing the message. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joshua. I've been a part of the online campus now for a little over 4 years, I believe, and my family has been a part of Victory Life Church for, I think we're pushing 8 years now. It's at least 7.5. But it's been an amazing journey since we came here. We came here to Victory Life Church from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, so not super far away from the main campuses of Victory Life, which are mainly in Durant, Oklahoma, and Sherman, Texas. But it's been an amazing journey since we've been here, and it's been very interesting. And today's message is going to revolve around that, and it's going to give you a little bit of my story here at Victory Life. But I want to start off by asking you a question, and I want to start off by encouraging you to go ahead and get your iPad, get your phone, open up a separate window on your laptop and open up YouVersion and check out. We're going to be in the book of John today, chapter 13. And also in the chat room, you can click on the Bible tab and you can click on the notes tab. You'll see my notes that you can follow along there with. We want you to be as involved and engaged as possible. But first, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been stuck? Are you stuck right now? Are you stuck in your job? Are you stuck in a place of ministry? Or do you just feel like you're stuck in a rut and you don't really know how to get out? You've come to a place in life where it might not be a bad thing. It might not be a good thing. It might just be a place where you're stuck and you don't know how to get out. Well, a few years ago, about 6 years ago, I ended up in a place like that myself. I was in a rut, and it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. My wife and I had been involved in multiple different ministries at our Sherman campus at Victory Life Church, but at that time in the church's history, there were a lot of changes going on in the Sherman campus. So a lot of ministries kind of came and went to help the swelling of the new two congregations were coming together. Some new pastors were coming in, and it was just a time of a lot of upheaval, not bad upheaval, just a lot of changes. So a lot of the ministry opportunities that my wife and I, Amy, were involved in just kind of dried up, fizzled out, weren't available. So it ended up at a time in my life where I was kind of like, well, Father, I know this is the path I'm supposed to be on. I know I'm supposed to be at Victory Life Church, but what do we do now? It wasn't a bad place to be. It was actually, looking back now, hindsight's 2020, I learned a lot from that time in my life. And I got to a place where I just had to say, Father, if you open a door, I'll walk through it. I don't see anything in front of me. I don't see any opportunities that I can pursue. But if you open the door, I'll walk through it. What we did is, in the meantime, in the idle time, we stayed involved. We hosted life groups for other people. We substituted. We greeted at the door. We helped in the coffee shop. Amy makes a great cup of espresso. And I helped with ushering, taking up offering, helping people find their seats, things like that. Just general things where in the church there's always a need. But it just so happens one day in life group, we were in life group with some friends that another friend of mine who is one of the big technical gurus at the church, they were building a brand new broadcast studio in the Sherman campus. And he asked me if I'd like to run a camera. And I told him, I said, brother, I've never operated a camera before. I have no idea. And he assured me that I could do it. He assured me that I had enough smarts to run a camera. And I was like, if you say so, Steve, I'll trust you. And sure enough, a few weeks later, I was running the main camera that we record with in Sherman to record Pastor Dwayne's message. I got put on the main camera the first time, so I was pretty nervous for a while. It took me a while to get a hold of that, but what I did is I served. I served in a place where I never would have necessarily volunteered to serve because it wasn't my wheelhouse, wasn't necessarily something I was terribly interested in. It was just the door that opened. And I remember telling myself, I said, God, I'd walk through a door if you opened it. And that door opened, so I walked through it. And what happened there is it was a span of a couple years. I worked my way up from being a camera operator to being kind of what you could call the executive producer, not a full-time staff member at the church, but at the highest level of a volunteer could go. I scheduled all the volunteers. I made sure that the recording of Pastor Dwayne's messages got produced and got edited and got done and got sent to the proper places, but all of that happened through serving. And today we're going to talk about the prime examples of the ways that you can serve. And I like to call it directional serving because there's not just one way to serve in life. There's 3 ways, and we're going to talk about those in just a minute. And you need to be, I've found out recently in life, as I'm getting a bit older and gaining some wisdom, in some form or fashion, you need to be engaged in these 3 ways of serving. But first, let's talk about our example. Turn to John 13, verse 14 and 17. Today I'm going to be reading from the ESV, but if you have the notes, you can follow along with me. It says in John 13, "If then your Lord and teacher have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I've given you an example that you also should do just as I have done. Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them." Now that last verse we'll get to a little bit later in the message. But this is a setting where Jesus is washing the disciples' feet. He is taking this as an act to show them that the master can serve down. The master can serve those below him, those who necessarily can't do anything in return for him. But he's also showing this as a posture. What I want to take away from this is the posture of our hearts that we serve from. The posture of our hearts, there's 3 things that you want to get your mind wrapped around while you're serving and make sure that your heart's in the right place. The first one of those being humility. Now, these are the posture of our heart. We need a humble heart and a humble spirit. And the simple definition of humility is simply putting others before you. It doesn't mean putting yourself down at all. It just means putting others' needs, desires, wants before yours and serving others. The second one kind of threw me off a little bit because this word I've found in life generally goes to the negative. But if you look at it from the positive side, it really makes sense. And the second posture of our heart is condescension. Now it threw me off a little bit when I first read it, but the definition of condescension, the great definition that I found, is a voluntary descent in one's rank or dignity in relation with someone inferior. Now, inferior doesn't mean someone less than, because we're all the same. We're all children of God. We've just come across different paths in life and had different opportunities, and some of us have had a harder time than others. So we don't want to use the words inferior and even condescension in the negative forms, but we want to realize that condescension means to voluntarily descent in one's rank or dignity in relation with someone inferior. That's just someone that you can serve. Now, the third, and probably the one that everybody knows, posture of our heart is love. And love is brotherly love. It's simply a feeling of deep affection. We want to serve from love, from voluntarily descending to serving one another, condescension, and to humility. The posture of a servant is simply humility, condescension, and love. Now let's move into the application. Like I said earlier, I've learned recently in my life that what I kind of call directional serving. I haven't come up with a good title yet. So if you guys want to give me a good title in the chat room after you hear this, for the next time I give this message, or maybe a Bible study or a YouVersion Bible study, feel free to suggest the title. But the application side of this, we've gone over the example. Now let's go over the application. Directional serving is serving the 3 ways that I talked about earlier. And the first of those is vertical. That is serving up. Vertically serving up. There's some examples of this, like the disciples served Jesus. We could all say anybody serving Jesus, we're serving up. And then serving up is serving those above you. This may be many different people in life. This is an easy example of this is serving the pastors in your life, or maybe serving your life group leader, or someone who is at a different stage of life than you, maybe a bit more successful, maybe a bit more spiritually mature. Just at a place that you want to be in life. The best way to learn from them is to serve them. There's some examples I found of this. Some examples are Timothy serving Paul, and one that we don't often think about, but Paul served Barnabas for many years. And Paul earned some favor with the other apostles by serving Barnabas and earned some favor with Barnabas. We also, in the Old Testament, we have Joseph. Joseph was one of the greatest servants, and Joseph's being such an amazing servant got him to be second in command over all of Egypt under no one except Pharaoh. Joseph served Potiphar and Pharaoh, and he served in the prison as well. Also, one of my favorite stories, because my name is Joshua, is Joshua serving Moses. Joshua was a warrior that served Moses. He helped cast light on the vision that God gave Moses in expanding and just helping Moses accomplish what God gave him in life. But he served up. The second way that we serve, which I think we overlook sometimes, or maybe we don't, this is probably the easiest one of the three. Maybe, I could be wrong. You guys tell me in the chat room. Is horizontal, what I call horizontal serving. That is serving the person on your right and the person on your left, or the person on your left or right, whatever way you're looking at the camera. That is serving the person next to you. This is serving your peers, serving those who are at the same stage in life as you, serving those who might be in your same age bracket, those who have the same children the same age as you. These are ways that these are people who are doing life right alongside of you. And serving these is something that develops a really good key that we're going to talk about in a minute. Serving horizontal is serving the people to your right and to your left. So if you're watching me and there's somebody sitting next to you, that's who we're talking about right now, is serving those. Or if you're watching in a church service, the person on your right and the person on your left, that is serving horizontal. The third one I want to talk about is serving down. We often serve down in church. We have outreaches. We have all sorts of food banks, clothing banks. And when I say serving down, that doesn't necessarily mean serving someone down below us. Sometimes some of these terms can come across negative, and I don't mean them that way. But serving down is serving someone who is less fortunate than you. Serving those who might not have as much as you. Serving those who you can give a bit of what you have to those who have less. And the greatest way to figure out if you're serving down is if the person you're serving or the group or whomever can do nothing for you in return. That's the prime definition of serving down. And it's one of the most important ways that we can serve, because when we serve down, we don't serve down at people. We serve down with our hands open so that we can bring them up. But after our three directional ways of serving, simply you can boil it down. The best way to serve, and a lot of times people ask, well, where do I start? What do I do? I don't know where to serve. There's nothing at my church I want to get involved in. But remember, the posture of our heart is humility, condescension, and love. So the best way to serve is ask what's needed. Ask whomever you need to. Ask a leader at your church. Just simply ask what's needed, then do it. You never know what it's going to lead to. I did not necessarily want to run a camera, and that starting out with running a camera worked up to where I'm sitting here today speaking to you wherever you are in the world. I'm getting to speak to an international audience, and it's amazing that I get to do that. There's a counterexample of serving. Like, we want to ask where to serve and then do it. You don't want to just assume what needs to be done and then do it. I have this example that is kind of funny in a way. I was involved in an outreach at another church I was in, and my job was to serve the homeless. I ran a bus. I was a bus captain, and we picked up roughly about 50 homeless people every Sunday and brought them to church. And it was one of the most amazing and fun things I've ever done in my life. And not only did we want to bring them to church, but we wanted to feed them also. So within a couple weeks of starting the ministry, we ended up having lots of donors, which was amazing. And we put together food boxes to give away when we dropped everybody off on the way back to where they were staying in the shelters. But we did a dumb thing. In the food boxes, mind you, these are homeless people. Some of them stay in the shelters, but there's no way to prepare food. And in these boxes of food, we were giving them things like raw meat and cans that they had to open. And this was not the type of thing that needed to be given to a homeless person, maybe somebody with a home, but not someone who can't cook the raw meat. They can't start a fire on the side of the road. I mean, maybe they can, but it was just an oversight on our part because we assumed what needed to be done. We didn't ask them what they needed. So remember, if you can't find a way to serve, all you got to do is ask. Ask what needed and then do it. The outcome when we serve is mainly revolved around a few different things. And one of those being our personal growth and our maturity. We develop maturity and wisdom and knowledge when we serve, and this helps us get out of the rut. This gives us some fuel to figure out things that we couldn't have figured out before. This gives us the ability to move to the next level, if you want to use that phrase. It provides us momentum for moving forward, because if you're stuck in a rut, the worst thing you can do is just spin your tires. Sometimes if you're stuck in the mud, or if you're stuck in the snow, or you're stuck in the ice, the worst thing you can do is sit in your car and spin your tires. Sometimes you got to get out, reassess the situation, maybe find some branches, stick under your tires. That's the momentum. Maybe it's not something you necessarily want to do, because you're going to either be cold, or you're going to get muddy, or you're going to get dirty. But that's what serving is. It's getting down in the trenches, figuring out a way to get yourself out of a rut while serving others. It's an amazing thing to do. In the book, No Ego, you might have been here for Jubilee with us. We had Pastor Philip McKinney as one of our speakers at the leadership conference. He's written an awesome book. In a quote I pulled from his book that I've been reading, and the book's titled No Ego, and this is by Pastor Philip McKinney. It says, accelerated growth is fueled by helping others. That just adds to what we're talking about. If you are stuck and you're not growing, you're not maturing, you're not growing wiser, you're not gaining knowledge, you're not learning, it's probably because you're simply doing nothing. You're stuck in a rut and you're twiddling your thumbs. It's time to get out of the car, get out of that rut, and start serving. As we serve, the different directions that we serve, we learn from our serving experiences. By serving up, like I said a minute ago, serving up, we gain wisdom and we gain knowledge. Serving horizontal, we learn empathy. We learn how to empathize and sympathize with those around us, and that softens our heart to the world around us. In serving down, we develop compassion. We learn how to love our fellow men, love those who may be less fortunate than us, and not simply love them where they are, but find them where they are so we can help them, pick them up, and bring them farther along on our journey. Also, serving opens the doors to your true calling. Many of us that oftentimes we feel called by God, like we feel like we have a purpose, we have a divine destiny, but we can't necessarily lay our finger on that. I never, ever in a million years thought I would be involved in an online campus. Most people pin me for a techie guy or technology guy, and I'm not. I have everything that I know about running these cameras and running these computers and running this online campus. I've learned as we've gone along. I've learned from Pastor Craig. I've learned from some of the other technologically much more advanced people in our ministry. I've learned it as we went, but I'm so blessed that I get to be here and I get to serve you today wherever you are in the world. That was by serving. That was by taking a step out and not doing something I necessarily wanted to do, but simply following a path of serving and getting out of the rut. The ultimate outcome that comes from our serving is we get to follow in Jesus' footsteps. Everywhere Jesus went, he served in some way. He served with helping people with healing. He served in love. He served in all the different ways we talked about earlier. He served with humility, with condescension, and love. And one of my favorite terms I learned probably 10 years ago is, and it's very simple, but it's very profound, especially involved here at our online campus. It's when you serve someone else, you get to be Jesus to someone in the world. You might be the only Jesus to your next door neighbor that needs his grass mowed. You might be the only Jesus that your coworker at work who might be a little down on their luck and needs some food or just whatever that might be. You might be the only Jesus someone meets, and you will definitely be the person that introduces others to Jesus. And that's one of the most amazing things that we get to do when we're serving. I'm going back to the No Ego book, Pastor Philip McKinney. It's a great book. You should get it. It said, the greatest leader of all time changed the world by serving. Who's that leader? That was Jesus. We are still talking about Jesus thousands of years later because the 3 years that he was in ministry were so impactful. He was so humble. He was so loving. He was walked in condescension, and he was so obedient that he impacted our world for all of eternity. Like I said earlier, John 13:17, I said we'd come back to this scripture, says, now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. Now that we've talked a little bit about the ways that you can serve, we want to serve up, we want to serve horizontal, we want to serve vertical, we want to serve horizontal, and we want to serve down. At any time in your life, there should be one of these directions. And if there's not, I tend to lean towards serving up more than anything. And after working out this message, I've been very convicted to find other ways. And I found ways that I serve horizontal, but currently right now, I'm not really serving down. And I'm kind of ratting myself out to you guys. So I'm committing myself to find a way that I can serve down, a way that I can take my family and we can serve down, some type of outreach, or a way I can serve others in our community, because it's very important to growth, to development, and to maturity to be always serving in the three directions: vertical, horizontal, or down. If you're stuck in life, find a need and fill it. If you're stuck, find somewhere to serve and serve. It may not be the exact place you want to be, but that place might be the door that opens up to the next place. You never know. I never thought I would be here by operating a camera, but here I am speaking to you. I have an international audience. It's such an amazing thing. Sometimes I can't even fathom it. It blows my mind just to think about who's on the other side of the camera, where you are, and where you're watching from. But ultimately, it all boils down to, we don't serve simply to be blessed. We don't serve to get something out of it. We serve at the core of all serving to simply be obedient to God. It's really about humbling ourselves and learning to live like Jesus. When we are obedient, we're acting as Christ did. We're laying down our desires and putting God and others first. The fastest way out of your rut is to stop focusing on yourself and start focusing on God and focusing on how you can serve others. Serving is such an important part of our lives. And I encourage you today, don't neglect serving. It doesn't matter if you are not anywhere near a Victory Life Church location. We don't mind if you want to serve your church in your town. That's amazing. We want to know. We want you to serve there, and we want you to tell us about it. Join our Facebook group. Let us know on Instagram. We want to know how you're serving wherever you are. I'm going to give you a little bit of a challenge this week as we go into this weekend, is jump on our Facebook group. Let us know how you're serving. Think about it for a little bit. Jump on our Facebook group. Let us know if you are serving up, if you're serving horizontal, and if you're serving down. And if you're serving all three currently, we'll give you a big pat on the back from wherever we are in the world, and we'll use you as an example to follow. But as we walk away today, I want to encourage you to take a step back. Think about how you are serving, if you are serving, and how you can serve. And serving doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple. Just find a need and fill it. So as we wrap it up today, I want to thank you personally for allowing me to come into your home, into your office, into your lunch break, into wherever you're joining us from. And thank you for bearing with me as I get my feet wet again into this world of communication and preaching. It's been a blessing to be with you today. So as we walk away, let's focus on the directions that we can serve. We serve vertically, we serve horizontally, and we serve down. And we do those at all times in our life. So if you're not doing one of those directions, let's take this time, take this week to readjust and find out how we can serve in those three ways. And the main takeaway from today's message is if you're in a rut, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, or if you're just stuck somewhere and you can't figure out how to get out and you can't figure out why you got in a rut, let me suggest that you serve. Serving takes our mind and our focus off of ourselves, and it puts it on others and it puts it on God. Serving can get you out of the deepest hole. Trust me, I've done it and I have experience. But I want to challenge you one more thing today. I want to challenge you to just come back. Come back and give Victory Life Church Online a chance. If this is your first time here, we want to connect with you, and the hosts are going to share a connect card in the screen, and they're going to put up a banner that says, I raised my hand. That is the banner I want you to click today if you want to make a commitment to come back to Victory Life Church Online, to give us a chance to I'm not even going to ask you to make any major commitments today. We're not going to say a prayer. We're not going to pray a prayer of salvation today. That's available if you'd like it. There's hosts in the chat that can help you with that. But I want to encourage you simply to come back. Give it a chance. Give what we're doing here a chance. Give us a chance to connect with you. Give us a chance to show you that we are a family around here. And we want you to be a part of that family. But it's been an awesome honor to be with you today. And I'd like to say a prayer as we step into the rest of our week and get ready for this weekend, another amazing weekend at Victory Life Church Online. Father, thank you so much for putting the words in my mouth. Father, I hope and I pray that the words I've spoken today are your words and that they affect someone somewhere in the world, Father. And I pray that you open our spiritual eyes that we may see your truth and we may see the path that you've laid before us and we may walk in it. That you open our spiritual ears so that we can clearly hear your voice and hear the direction that we need to go, Father, and that you open our hearts and that you soften our hearts to your love for our fellow man and for all of the world that surrounds us so that we can be Jesus to our world wherever we are in the world, Father. And I ask you throughout the rest of this week that you bless each and every person within the sound of my voice, because I know that you love them, Father, and they need to know that you love them as well. So, Father, in Jesus' name, we pray blessings over everyone here at Victory Life Church Online. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, thanks for joining us today. It's been an awesome time to be with you here. The hosts are available if you'd like live prayer. That's private prayer. You can click the request prayer button to go into a chat room with a host. But thanks again for joining us here today at Victory Life Church Online.